Just start right away. Now, this interview might be recorded and it might be posted on YouTube, as you know. But okay, tell me about yourself, Prakar.
Yeah, hey Saurabh. This is Prakhar. I've been working on Accenture as a cloud operation or as a DevOps engineer since last 2 year. Year. The technology we are using here, like uh, the CI/CD pipeline, we are using the GoCD basically, which is like a older tool.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Also quite sometime we are like migrating to Jenkins as well. Also our application that has been hosted on uh, cloud foundry also to like a older application, uh,
Yep.
but still it is in on all cloud. Also some of our infrastructure that has been hosted on AWS, so we are managing that as well. Also yeah, we do have like deployment usually in our day-to-day life, like in day-to-day task, as well as like handling the security thing. Yeah, these are some of the common work we usually do.
Okay. And you mentioned in your CV that you have worked on setting up multi-tier applications using
Yes.
virtual VPCs.
Yes.
So, can you tell me more about the security standards which you have been maintaining?
So basically, the VPC we usually create when we want to manage any of the application in a more secure way. So it can stand only like the public subnet and the private subnet. And the private subnet basically for when we don't want the application to be exposed outside the world, and the public where we want our application to be hosted. Along with that, we use the security group as well as the NACL, the NACL rules for handling those things. Yeah, also the route table has been configured properly in order to like map the traffic between the public subnet and the private subnet. Yep.
Okay.
This is,
And how about encryption?
yeah, the encryption that by default like the RDS database we are using, the at rest is by default like encrypted, but
Mm-hmm.
for in-flight encryption we are using the SSL, like connection between the uh, front-end application and the back-end application. And also we are using the KMS key to encrypt the data.
Sure. All right. So coming to encryption. So how would you explain encryption to somebody who doesn't know about it?
Encryption basically like when you don't want your expose to be in a simple format, rather you want into a hash code or something a common human can't understand it. uh, there will be like multiple way. One is like the symmetric encryption and asymmetric encryption, where like there will be different strategy, like one key that used for encryption and decryption, that's called the symmetric, as well as like if different key has been used for encrypting the data, and different key has been created for decrypting, then it's called a asymmetric. It's basically like we don't want to expose our data
Mm-hmm.
to human to understand it.
Okay. So for encryption, tell me about the differences between these terms. So data encryption, transport encryption, and end-to-end encryption.
The data encryption basically when data has been stored in the database or any of the storage devices, where data will be in the rest. It will be like by default given by most of the data services in AWS. That's the data in the rest encryption. When we come to like uh, in-flight encryption, where data is in a network, not in either any of the application in the flight. That's when
Mm-hmm.
like the in-flight encryption came into the picture. That's where the symmetric and asymmetric has been used. And end-to-end, I'm not sure. Like it might be like complete, like during even in the rest as well as in the in-flight might be should be encrypted. I'm not
Oh.
sure.
And why would you use encryption?
Yeah, this like one don't want to expose our data, right, to
Mm-hmm.
anyone, either in the rest or either in the in flight. In flight, there might be some attacker in between. They might steal our data or assets in the
Okay.
same
Yep. So that's
case.
one part of it. Can you use encryption for any sort of data integrity?
Sorry.
Can you use encryption to validate that your data is intact from one end to another? Can encryption be used for that purpose?
Mm, yes, I'll tell yes. Uh, because mm, if the data in one end is got encrypted, and if the same data is not if we try to decrypt in another end, and if the data is in the source and the destination, if it is same, I
Mhm.
think in that part we can use data is not been
Okay,
corrupted.
sure. All right, cool. Thank you. Uh, Coming to the next part, tell me the difference between authentication and authorization.
Yeah, authentication, when someone tried to uh, like uh, provide his identity, whether he's like a
Mhm.
valid user or not. And authorization came after the authentication, where if it is the genuine user, we try to provide like what type of access to the application that particular authenticate user have.
Okay. And so what sort of, have you used any federated identity tools?
We are using LDAP.
LDAP.
Yep.
And tell me what do you understand by federated identity and single sign-ons?
Yep. The federated identity, there will be a lot of organization which provide the identity, like the Facebook, Google, or GitHub, or LinkedIn. This type of organization, they provide their standard identity, and through the single sign-on, which will connect this federated identity into a single point of, so that once you log in into any one particular in your organization site, so it doesn't ask for multiple sign-in on. So using single federated entity,
Mhm.
you can authenticate with the multiple application in your
Okay. And
organization.
what is the role of identity provider and service providers?
I'm not sure on that. So,
Okay. Have you implemented any federated identity solution or have you just used it?
I have used the LDAP basically like in our organization that has been hosted by administrator.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Tell me, so in terms of your DevOps experience, so tell me more about what sort of DevOps experience do you have in terms of your CI/CD processes, in terms of deployments. So explain to me more about the projects you've done.
Yeah, yeah. I told we are using the Go CD, which is like a bit
Mhm.
similar to the Jenkins. The workflow will be almost similar, I'll tell. And uh, the tool we are using it. Then we are using the Cloud Foundry to host our application. We have like 5 data center. 3 of them are physical, and 2 of them the cloud hosted platform. The repository we are using is the GitHub, which is like a centralized code repository where all the different microservice application has been processed. And
Mhm.
for each of the application, each of the microservice, we have like a build like the first stage of CI/CD. That's called the CI, where we are using the Java code basically. We are using the Gradle tool to build that. Once the build has been completed, we'll go to Sonar testing part, where the static code analysis came into picture. Well, the Sonar cube, where the code whatever that has been built has been pushed to the Sonar cube, and we'll get a link in a report format where we'll see how is your code vulnerability, or how is the code standard, and the reusability and any security thing came into picture. Once that has been done, we have multiple environment in UAT, where the data application has been deployed, and then regression came into picture after deploying into the UAT, where different scenario has been written by the developer using the Postman script, where using our CI pipeline is got tested. Once the regression has been success, then we follow generally the canary approach of deploying the application. So the code has been written in a shell script format. So the API has been exposed by the Cloud Foundry. So we have written the script in a such a way that uh, like um, if any of the application, like the new application is being deployed in the production environment, uh, a lower set of the new version has been deployed. If you see, 50 instance has been running as a service, and if you're deploying a new one, so the two new instance has been added and the traffic has been splitted, so that is will validate in a canary format. A new application and the old application has been compared, and once that has been done, and we usually have the ELK monitoring setup where we will monitor each of the logs and everything looks good, then we have a CD pipeline. Well, the same canary new application has been scaled up and the old application will be scaled down,
Mm-hmm.
and then the monitoring part will came into picture again.
Sure. All right. You mentioned Canary a few times. Can you explain the difference? First, explain me the what do you understand by Canary deployment?
Yeah, canary, there will be like multiple way of deploying an application. One is the approach called the canary,
Mm-hmm.
where there will be old application, suppose called version 1, and if we want to deploy the version 2, we don't deploy the like same number of uh, uh, like we don't go with the same amount of traffic, like same number of service being deployed. Rather, a small portion of the version has been deployed. We'll validate it. If everything looks good, then we'll scale down the older application and we'll scale up the new application.
Mm-hmm. So, what's the difference between a Canary deployment and a rolling deployment?
Yeah, rolling will be suppose that I'll give you an example. There will be a 50 instance where the service has been deployed. All are running in a parallel. So rolling will be we'll deploy 4 instance, we'll kill that instance and we'll deploy that one. Suppose there will be
Mm-hmm.
50 instance that has been running. We'll deploy 4 and we'll kill 4 here. Like in the version 1, we'll kill 4, and version 2 will deploy 4. And then uh, in a similar way, if it is looks good, then we'll how can I
I,
will
I think I understand what you're trying to say.
yeah.
Right. Okay. And you understand blue green deployment as well, I believe.
Yes, it's like completely separate. We'll move complete traffic from one version to different one,
Mm-hmm.
and then if something goes back from green, we'll directly move to the older one that's called blue.
Sure. All right. Now I'll throw the ball in your court, and you explain me what are the prominent challenges that you have worked on in your project. Something a task which was very challenging to achieve. What was the complexity on it, and how did you resolve it?
The thing, the number of server we are managing in our application, that has been quite large. We are not only managing the single application. We are like a SADOps team. We will be manage like multiple application, multiple team operation support.
Mm-hmm.
So that's come into picture where we have a lot of like thousand, I could tell, like some 4 to 5 thousand application where vulnerability takes into picture. We have like Valsys, there's a tool SaaS product that has been used by the cybersecurity team. They usually run the vulnerability report once in like a week, and that they just usually share with us. So the thing I generally take the responsibility of handling the vulnerability, where for each of the vulnerability there will be multiple servers has been reported, and for the same server there will be like tens of other vulnerability that has been reported. Suppose
Mm-hmm.
there will be MySQL that has been running, or the Java has been running, that might be the older. If the patch version has to be upgrade, there will be quite few. So managing that vulnerability, I could tell I face challenges.
Okay. So tell me about your experiences with infrastructure as code. What are you using at the moment? Are you using Terraform?
I have been using it Terraform and some part of Cloud Formation as well, but I honestly speaking, I haven't much work on infrastructure.
No,
But I do
you said
work
that
on
you
Ansible.
have so from the from the technical input that you gave about the challenges, it looked like you had challenges managing the infra, right? So what was the problems? Why were you not using any infrastructure as code services?
We are using the Ansible as a
Ansible
configuration management tool.
for the
So
application.
Ansible, yeah,
Okay.
yes,
All right. So you also mentioned in your CV regarding you're optimizing the infrastructure using Lambda, right? For generating cost reports for Kinesis and DynamoDB.
yes,
Can
yes,
you walk me through what exactly was the
yes,
process of creating these Lambda functions and how did you save the cost?
yes. There are like tell you the situation where there will be multiple Kinesis stream has been using this for other team. I have been basically work on that. So they are using they are like a data engineering team. They are using a lot of Kinesis stream in a developer dev platform UAT and then the stage as well as the production. So I write as a DevOps engineer. I write a Lambda function for them, which has been written in the Python code. I have been written. So we are using the Boto 3, the library which has been provided by AWS.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the code will try to uh, get the list of all the Kinesis stream. There will be three metrics we have taken out. Like if the three of like for Kinesis, if there is no data for the Kinesis stream for like last 90 days, and even not even a single data, we'll pull that Kinesis stream, the where like the service, the location where it has been deploy, and some of the other parameter, and put it in Excel,
Okay.
and in Excel then push it into the S3, so that we will get it review from the leadership team, and
Mm-hmm.
if that has been actually being used, or they are in a future, like if someone has been created and planning to use it, we'll get it manually review it. Once that will got an approval, we have another script that has been written. We'll delete the bulk amount of Kinesis stream with another Lambda function.
Have you worked on Lambda layers?
No.
You haven't worked on Lambda layers. Okay. So have you worked on what sort of databases have you worked on?
I have work on like Redis. I have been work on Couchbase. I have work on RDS. I have work on MySQL some part, not much.
DynamoDB?
Yeah, DynamoDB I have worked not much, but in perspective of cloud optimization, like the
Okay. Can
optimization
you can
purpose I
you
have been using.
can you tell me the differences between RDS and DynamoDB?
Yeah, RDS is like a relational database. The basic difference, like, and DynamoDB will be the NoSQL database. The and RDS will be like there will be multiple relational database feature has been provided, like MySQL or the Postgres or Oracle server. But DynamoDB will be completely managed by AWS, and it will be store the data in a key value format. And yeah, that's the basic
Okay.
difference.
And how about Redshift?
No, but I know like it's mainly used for handling large amount of data. But when we mainly work on like data engineering part, where we want the bulk amount of data to be processed,
Mm-hmm.
that's Redshift when we usually generally use.
Cool. All right. So now I would love to keep on asking you questions, but I think we are just running short of time. One last
Yep.
question about if you are given a serverless architecture for processing some data streams, so how would
Okay.
you design it? Tell me about the
Okay.
data ingestion, the triggers, the data processing, the outputs. Tell me about that. So
Okay.
designing a serverless architecture.
Okay. We'll try to follow the API gateway approach at the front end. We'll use a different API gateway. yeah, like the API gateway service in the AWS, where we'll define the different API. Uh, then that can call the ETL, which is like AWS service, the Glue service, AWS Glue service, which is a ETL service. Okay. Uh, I think the Glue service came with the Lambda functionality where you can transform the data as well. It does
Mm-hmm.
provide the transformation feature as well. Also, it has been integrated with the S3 bucket. The Glue can be integrated, yes. And once the ETL has been completed, then you can push that data to data lake. Basically, if it is like a centralized server, data lake or the Redshift, we can push it into a once Redshift, and then depending upon the application or the use case, we can use the Lambda function, or if we have application, then we can pull the data from, or I think the EMR structure will work better, which is like Elastic Map Reduce, uh, where like we can use the Hadoop. I think I'm not much aware of EMR, but
Mm-hmm.
EMR can pull the data from the Redshift, and we have the Hadoop application that has been running, and we can process the data from there.
Okay. Tell me about something about your alerting and monitoring techniques that you have used. So, what
Yep.
sort of tools that
So
you're using?
the basic alerting, we have the CloudWatch alerting, where CloudWatch integrated with SNS. SNS will be integrated with our email as well as our Slack webhook has been integrated. This is one flow. Also, for Elasticsearch, we are using our Elast Alert. That's a feature provided by Elasticsearch, where we'll define different YML template. Uh, that's one that continuously monitor our Elasticsearch, whatever the query has been written. That's one thing. Also, we are using the Grafana alerting, where Grafana, any of the dashboard or the panel, we can configure the alerting that has been integrated with our Slack channel, basically. So it's being triggered over there.
All right, Prakhar, I think I'm towards the end of this round. So I'll tell you the I'll tell you the verdict of this interview. So had this been like the first interview, I would have qualified you. Some of the things that I noticed. So you have just 2 years of experience, but
Yes.
the depth of knowledge that you have, it looks like you have really worked on those projects. So I'm good with the depth that you went in. Some questions that I
Mhm.
asked, you were able to articulate well. You were not able to answer some of those questions, like when I went onto Lambda layers and all that. So which I'm okay with your experience that you have at the moment. Few topics that we didn't
Mhm.
get into. For example, we didn't get into the depth of Kubernetes. We didn't get into the depth of any CI/CD. But
Mhm.
I would like to go in maybe sometime later. But I think you did well for the first round here. And
Mhm.
apart from that, we didn't ask you any more questions than AWS and cloud. And I see that you have worked for 2 years in the same organization at the moment. So what are your goals currently?
So I'm looking for a change, basically. So so yeah, I'll try to explore more on some. I haven't worked on Kubernetes much in this project, but I have like quite learning from on myself and getting like projects and creating projects and getting hands-on experience on that. So I'll be like
Yeah.
moving toward that direction.
Because the questions that we followed today were more towards your cloud operations. So we
Yep.
didn't ask any of the development related questions or anything towards the DevOps engineer type of questions. But I think you are okay with the cloud knowledge that you have as per your 2 years of experience. And I wish you all the best.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, Prakash,
Thanks
and
a lot.
I'll see you sometime next.
Yep. Yep.